Hi, everyone. I'm Isabel. As Jessica told you, at the beginning, I was calmer than what I am now. This is only my third time I'm doing this webinar. Pardon my French, and I mean it because I'm a French-speaking person, so I'm not very, well, I'm not that fluent in English. So Jessica is going to help me out if I'm missing a few words. The more nervous I get, the less words I know.
Fluent. You're very fluent. You're okay.
First of all, I want to get to know you. How many of you are already using SketchUp? Show of hand or just mention it.
Yeah, you guys can use the participants window to say yes or raise your hand. Let us know how many people are using SketchUp or have used SketchUp before. So we have a couple. Deborah has used it. Jackie has. Frank has not. Sheridan has. Okay, so a little bit in the middle. I'm guessing probably more people that have not than people who have. Anne-Marie says she's used the 3D warehouse in Chief Architect.
Okay.
Mario and Chuck both said no, they have not as well.
So I don't know how much you know about SketchUp, but for those who are already using SketchUp, this might be a little bit boring, but I'll try to just give it a twist so you you can enjoy. You can enjoy because we'll see SketchUp from the beginning. From as I said in one of the other webinars, is that when you learn to cook, you gotta at least first learn to boil water, right? So for SketchUp, it's very easy to use, but there are the basics things that you have to learn before using it. But I'm pretty sure in a few hours you'll be ready to draw cabinets with that. So first of all, I'm going to explain to you why I'm using SketchUp, because I don't know how many of you are already using a 3D software or a CAD software for their kitchen design.
Yeah, whether it's 2020 or AutoCAD or Chief Architect.
Chief Architect. I gotta look into this software, Chief Architect, because many people mention it. And oh, Cabinet Vision. Oh, I have. Oh. 2020.
Yeah, so
many of them use 2020.
AutoCAD.
Yes. For 2020 users, you might not see a reason to switch to SketchUp. Actually, there is no reason for you to switch to SketchUp. There's a good reason to know SketchUp, because SketchUp is, well, it's not a big investment in time to learn SketchUp, and it can help you out to draw a few elements that are custom made, and you can put into your 2020 or other software other software that you're using, because most of those software are you have to have the catalogs, and they are very predefined shapes and objects, as I believe. So SketchUp can help you out to just go quicker drawing your custom-made object, and then you can always import them into your already set designs in 2020. I believe Cabinet Vision is the same in other, well, I'm not familiar with those software, because I started using SketchUp a long time ago. At that time, there was not many software, I'm sorry, available at that time. So, and I never saw a reason to switch to another software, because SketchUp was okay for me. So back in the old days, before we had any computer CAD software to use, what we were doing if anybody remembers that. If you have a long experience, you remember that we have to draw by hand all our design, our kitchen design. It was okay, but doing a change in the design, you have to redraw all of the whole thing, or well, like this one, this was drawn with a pencil, so I can erase, but it was not very efficient. You had to draw, well, you had to spend a lot of time in many of your designs, right? So came the CAD business with the plans, floor plans that were easy to use, and, well, not easy to use, easy to draw, but CAD, AutoCAD, for instance, you had to be a very good user. You have to spend more time learning the software before using it, and not to mention 3D. So 3D, we could do 2Ds and elevations, but 3D, you would spend 45 hours of training, and that's pretty much what you could do with AutoCAD at that time in 3D. So what we did for our customer was to present them floor plan with AutoCAD, and then switch to hand drawing for 3D presentation. Well, we had a good response to from our client with these drawings, actually, because 2D, for a 2D floor plan, you can show your CAD drawing, that's okay. But when it comes to showing that you're not only a software user, but you are also an artist, you are also a designer, by making this kind of sketch, you can convince them that you are an artist. You're not just the cabinet seller, right? So there was a very, very good response, especially in the high-end business, where you can make the difference between you and IKEA, for example. So I had a hard time getting rid of the hand drawing because my client were asking for it. Then came the software, the cabinet software. We could make easy 3D presentation, but first of all, you had to have specific sizes of cabinets and everything, so it was not very custom made. For custom made products, it was not very good. And also, in order to achieve this artistic feel that people used to like with our 3D drawing, well, we couldn't really have this with this kind of drawing. As you can see, it's quite cold, it's quite very, it's too linear. And what I believe is that most of the time, our client like to feel that it's a little bit messy in their kitchen, because their kitchen is messy, actually. You cook in the kitchen, you live in the kitchen. So the kitchen has to be a testimony of the fact that people are living in this room. So especially for kitchen, my hand drawings were more popular than these kind of drawings, right? So when came SketchUp, I could finally have a 3D software that was easy to use and that I could make change very quickly, and also draw very quickly a design, but still having pieces of artistry in the drawing. And I still have today a very good response from my client to this kind of drawing. And I'm doing these extension lines and everything on purpose, just to keep this drawing, hand drawing feel, and people like it. But nowadays, you can start from SketchUp and then run it to another software or another rendering software, where you can have a more realistic look here with your basic of AutoCAD, SketchUp, that you turn into this rendering software. And you can also have a little little movie that you go around and see your kitchen designs to your clients, show your kitchen design to your clients. So this is why SketchUp is still relevant today, even though we have very cool software like 2020 Cabinet Vision that has a very nice 3D rendering part. But the thing is that with SketchUp, it's very easy to make the changes while you are speaking with your client. So am I okay with that? I'm gonna take a sip of water. So any questions so far?
No questions in the chat yet, no.
Mm-hmm. So why SketchUp is still so cool? It's because, first of all, easy to use. I'm excited to show you how easy it is to use. In a matter of hours, you'll be able to draw something with SketchUp. So this is not what most of the software can allow you to, because those 3D softwares, you have to be to spend a few hours to be able to work with it. And with SketchUp, I didn't, at that time when I learned SketchUp, I didn't have time, and still not have time, to learn any what rendering software I'm recommending. I'm using Vortex, because Vortex is also interactive, and it's not only a rendering software, but it's also a animation software. So this is what I'm using so far. I can show you what it looks like actually afterwards. So SketchUp is easy to use. So I never had time to, after school, I never had time to learn a new software because I had too many clients. I had to just draw and draw and draw. So SketchUp, I never lost time with using SketchUp, so I can present my drawings with, to my client. And because when you learn a new software, sometimes you are stuck with the fact that you don't know the software. So you cannot just offer what you have in mind to your client just because you're not very familiar with the software. But you don't get that with SketchUp. SketchUp is also dynamic. It's not just only a drawing, but it's also a room, a 3D room where you can move around and show to your client all the parts and the interactions from one room to another, because you are like walking through your project with SketchUp. And it's also very interactive with your client. You can make the changes directly on the computer while you're speaking with your client, so they can see immediately the changes that you've made. So you can agree on a final drawing in something like just one meeting with your client. So you save time, and you can get to a deal pretty quickly. So that's quite useful. And it's also SketchUp has become a common language in the software business. As I was saying before, now I'm using a rendering software. That's what's very hot these days are the rendering software. There are so many. You have V-Ray, you have Enscape, you have the one I'm using, Vortex, also on Tri-Shader Light, just to name a few. There are so many that are very, normally they're user-friendly, but most of the time, or in the, I think it's always the case, those rendering software, they have to start, you have to start with another software, which is SketchUp, or sometime 2020, but SketchUp is one of the common basic software that you can use to export your drawing to these rendering softwares. So my typical process is that I always done that, but not everybody can do, you can do whatever you want. You can always just work with SketchUp. But how I work is that I first start with AutoCAD, doing my floor plan and figuring out where I put everything in the kitchen or in the bathroom or in the room I'm designing. So SketchUp is okay, but it's not as technical as AutoCAD for doing floor plan. Since I'm used to work with AutoCAD for technical reasons, I'm still using AutoCAD. And then I import my drawing into SketchUp, where now I can elevate all the 3Ds, make a full project with it. And then I'm using this little plugin from SketchUp. It's included in the license of SketchUp that is called Layout. Layout is just like a piece of paper that allows you to print your sketches in a nice manner. And then afterwards, once I've done everything, I just run it through Vortex Spaces, which is my rendering software. Vortex Spaces, I just spend 15 minutes adding lights and background and everything, so I make it more realistic. But still, sometimes I can just show them a SketchUp drawing to my client, and that's okay. Vortex Spaces, it's not as necessary as I was expecting at the first, but SketchUp is the basic, right? So that's what it looks like. This is, see the way it's all inserted on a piece of paper. It's from Layout. So this is my CAD drawing, my AutoCAD drawing that I turned into a SketchUp model. And with SketchUp, you can just turn the colors off, and so you have black and white drawings, and also have elevation views, so you can add measurements. So it makes a not too bad technical product as well, if you want to just run it through. But at the boutique, what we do is that we take AutoCAD and then make elevations out of AutoCAD, but that's not necessary. If you just for the installation of your cabinets, and also for your CDPS order, you just need those elevation, and that's okay. So with the Vortex, not that I want to push Vortex too much, but with Vortex, you can download your sketches into a YouTube video. So your client can, once you send them the link, it's a private link, on YouTube, they can see their future kitchen, how it's going to look like, and show that to their friends and their family. See, so, and that's a good publicity as well, because once you show that to their friends, they will give you a call. Of course, they want to have the same kitchen or something as good looking as the kitchen of their friends. So that's a good promotion tool as well. So that's pretty much how I work with all those softwares. But now, back to SketchUp, because that's why we're here, right? Now let's get started. Any questions so far? Hello?
Hi, no questions.
Okay.
Anne-Marie was asking what rendering software you recommend, but I just explained what you actually do. And she said Chief Architect does offer the same options. And yes, there are other softwares
Yes.
that can do all of these things or many of these things. This is just another alternative to that. Frank is asking, is any of this free, SketchUp or Vortex?
Vortex is not free. SketchUp, you can have a free version. The only thing with SketchUp is that there's a nice tool that is called the warehouse that you don't have access to when you use the free version. But you can always apply to the 1 month trial, and then upload all the objects that you want to keep with you from the warehouse, and then you can switch to the free version and work freely with SketchUp, and you'll be able to make drawings and present your projects anyways. I can show you how it's done. So first of all, I know you're all eager to have to make cabinets out of SketchUp, but we have to start with the basics first. So which is launch SketchUp. We'll go with that. Go. Once you launch SketchUp, you can always have access to your drawings that are already that you have previously opened. But let's say we start with a new one. You have many models already included in SketchUp. There's the architectural file, the simple one. They're both in inches. The simple is just the background that changes in a few setup that are the change. I always use the architectural one. You can, if you want to work in meters or in millimeters, which is not very common, I believe, in our business, you can choose one of those models in meters, millimeters, centimeters, and another architect in meter. So I use the architectural inches model when I create something, and I change a few setup afterwards, but that's another thing. We'll go in. So here we are. Are there any people that are using SketchUp while I'm showing you the SketchUp right now?
Chuck is, yeah, I see Chuck put up
good.
his hand. So for sure there's maybe one or a few people that are following along with you. Oh, Stefan is as well.
Stefan is.
Just for everyone's reference, Stefan did drop a link in the chat for SketchUp plans and pricing. I just dropped a link in the chat for Vortex Spaces, just so everybody can take a look. Not like we're not promoting either one of these. We're just showing you what one of our internal designer uses for her projects. Doug is also asking, will Cabico take these drawings for custom cabinets? You can send those drawings to us and we will price them as a custom quote, yes, but then we would do our own CAD drawings for them.
You can always take your drawing, your SketchUp drawing, and send it to AutoCAD as well. So the other way around also works. So you can just turn your SketchUp model into an AutoCAD, and then you can send it to anybody, so they'll have your drawing in another common language that people are using, which is AutoCAD or any CAD actually. I think DraftSite, or I'm pretty sure Chief Architect is Chief Architect a DWG file, or it's something else?
That's a great question. I actually don't know that for sure. I'm wondering if it is DWG or DXF is
okay.
what Anne-Marie is saying.
Yeah. So that's one of the common language also for CAD drawing. So they all talk to each other. So that's fine with it. So SketchUp is one of them. You can upload DWG models and then download your SketchUp file to any CAD, and it goes both ways. So when you launch SketchUp, you have, well, here I have Mark. That's an animation character. Some of you might have Sophie or Stacy. It doesn't matter. Actually, you can always delete this animation character if you wish. You're not stuck with it. So basically, working with SketchUp, it's just pick a pencil and you draw. That's just as simple as that. But there are a few basics that we have to know. Even though you pick up the pencil that I'm showing here, I click and there I have a pencil and draw. But here I'm making a line. See? I'll show you quickly one of the tools. First of all, All those tools are available in the menu, but these are shortcuts that you can use, and that's how it works with SketchUp. You should work with the shortcut to make it easier. So just make sure you have appearing at least this first part of the menu that is called Getting Started. Once you drag your mouse on the upper part of the screen, you right click, and then you have appearing all the shortcut menus that you can use. So the main one would be Getting Started for the main tools that are available in SketchUp. You have other ones that are very useful, like construction, but what we'll need today is primarily Getting Started, measurement. Once you click measurement here, there's a box in the bottom part of your screen that will appear here. So that's basically the measurements of your drawing. So let's say, for example, I'm going quickly, but I'll go over the tools afterwards. Go back to the tools. I want to measure the line I just drew. I just click the first point and then the second, and you see at the bottom part, you see that my line is 69 feet and 9 inches and 5/16 inches long. So it gives you an idea of the measurement, but you don't see much of where you've drawn your line, right? So that brings me to one of the basic understanding of the drawing, is that the axis lines are very, very important in SketchUp drawing. So you want to make sure you draw along the axes, mainly because we draw cabinets. So we draw something that is quite square, and you want to make sure it's right on plan. So for those who don't remember their high school math axis, they were pretty much, I had a little drawing that I just took away. Those axes are the basic axes that we learn in math. I know it's here to hunt you again now, but there's the X axis that comes from left to right. And then there's the Y axis that comes from, well, actually, it can be considered as the depth of your drawing, so from the front to the back. And then there's the Z axis that goes from the bottom to the upper part of your drawing. So that will show the three dimensions of your drawings. Here in SketchUp, we call them the red axis, the green axis, and then the blue axis. It's important to know those axes, because sometimes the drawing refers to those axes. I'm going to show you, first of all, how we relate to those axes. Is that when you pick up your main tool, your best friend is the crayon here, the pencil. You do the drawings with that. So once you pick this tool here, which is the pencil, you can start from the 0, point of the axis and then draw pretty much everywhere. But I want to draw along a certain axis to make sure I'm drawing on the plan. I'm drawing a square thing. So just make sure that my line is straight. I just have to force a direction of my drawing of my pencil. So to force those directions, what I do is that I have to use the arrows on the keyboard. I'm going to show that to you. I don't know if you see it. Just a sec. Do you see it? Oops. I think it doesn't work. What I'll do is that I'll just show you with my summary sheet here. So on your keyboard, you have your arrows here. The left arrow helps you out in moving along the green axis. Let's go back to my drawing. The green axis is this one. So if before I click for the second time, I just press the left arrow. See, I cannot go anywhere else but along the green axis with my pencil. So it helps you out to just draw a very straight line to make sure that your line goes along this axis. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to write down, because I want to make a 12 feet long line, I'm just going to write 144 inches because I'm in inches as my basic measurement. I go and there I'm sure that my line is 12 feet long and that's it. I'm ready to make another segment. We'll call them the segment or the lines. So I'm planning to make a rectangle, a 144 inches by 144 inches rectangle. So now I want to move along the red axis on this direction, right? So what I'll do is that, like I showed you, to move along no, that's red axis here. Red axis, it's the that's the red. That's the right
arrow. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. And just so everyone knows, that quick cheat sheet that Isabel was just showing on the screen, we're going to drop it in the chat towards the end of the session, so everyone can download that and use that as a reference when they're playing around with SketchUp. So that'll be a good resource for you guys.
So I want to make sure that my line is along the red axis. So what I'll do is that I'll press the right arrow, and then I can only go from left to right or right to left with my pencil. So I'll just press down 144 on my keyboard and then enter. And there we go. We have a 144 inches long segment. Now I want to close the rectangle. I can always use again the left arrow, click it, and then press 144. Or since I've pressed the left arrow, I can only go from back or front, right, with my drawing. So what I'll do is that I'll just send my pencil near an end point. See, it's every time you go near an end point of your segment, see there's a green dot that appears. So it shows you that it's one of the principal points that you can refer to. There's also the midpoint that you can go to, right? I want to go to the midpoint or the end point. So let me go to the end point. But as you can see, since I forced the direction with my pencil, when I move near the end point and I click, well, my segment doesn't go at the end. It goes parallel to the first segment, but it ends at the end point of the first segment. Understood? Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, I see some heads nodding.
Now, I'm just closing down my square here. See what happens? There's a face that appears. That's necessary so you can only extrude the faces to make 3D. So you want to make sure that you create a face with your drawing, right? If you make a square that is not closed, there is no face that is created, and so you cannot extrude this shape at all. So you really need to close down any of your shape, to any of your segments, to make sure you have a shape inside. And these are the shapes that you will turn into colors and textures so you can make your 3D, right? So let's go back with the basic tools again. Okay, now as you can see here, there's one tool that you have to get to know very quickly is the select tool, the first one here, the arrow. So once you click this, this button here, you can select with this any part that you want to do an action to, right? I want to delete the mark. Let's start with mark. I want to delete mark. So what I'll do is that I'll select mark and then press delete on my keyboard. And that's it. Mark is gone. Bye, mark. Now, this segment here, I have two choices if I want to delete it. I can either select the segment or just use the eraser and then go close to my segment and then click, and then the segment disappears. If we do that with a segment that forms a shape here, see, the shape disappears as well because it's all connected now. Any line that are together and joined with the shape, they are all connected together. So if I'm using another tool here that is called move, let's say I'm selecting this segment here. I just want to move it. See, the whole drawing follows around. So you have to keep in mind they're all connected now. There's a way to unconnect them, but that's another trick that I'm going to show you later on. So select button. Every button here, every shortcut of the menu, they have their little, it says underneath, once you drag your mouse, you can see what it does. So select the entities, the eraser. You have the lines that I've shown you already. And you have also, once you press this little arrow, you have underneath a menu that shows you what other things you can do with this tool. So there's the line, which is a straight line, and the freehand. The problem with the freehand, so you just start, you hold your mouse and do your freehand drawings. But the thing with the freehand is that you cannot have any force direction like I showed you with the arrow. So you just don't know if it's a flat shape that you just made, or you just made a 3D shape and you don't know it. So it's not a very helpful tool for us in the cabinet making industry, right? You have other shapes available like arch. Arch are very necessary to make a very round shape that is regular. So you have many ways of doing your arc. Just a regular arc from one point, click one point, click the second point, and then click a third point. So you have your arc done. But the one I'm using the most is the 2-point arc, where you can go from one point to the second one and then determine your height, and then your arc is done. You have different shapes here, like circle, rectangle, a polygon as well. Then you can change the number of sides that you want. And there's this very cool tool where the fun starts, is the push and pull button. Push and pull allows you to extrude the shape that you have already done here. So if I want to make it a cube out of this square, I just click this shortcut menu and then click on the shape and then go the direction I want to extrude. And now that's how the magic happens, right? We want to make a 3D drawing. So here we are, we have a, let's say 96 inches high cube. So this is mainly how you do that with the push and pull. You can push and pull from bottom to up on the side as well. You can use this tool to just change the shape of your square, right? That has now become a cube. This is one of the main tool that you're going to use. Another one that we're using is the offset. The offset here, I'm getting to doing walls out of it. So what I'll do is that I'll click this tool and then go near my face. So what it will offset, actually, it will offset your face either inside of the shape of the face or outside. So let's go inside, 4 inches. See, what it does is that it has done another shape inside the first shape. Now, before I'm getting to a little bit further, I want to explain to you that this box here that I've created is just basically like origami. It's basically just like sheets of papers that I've joined together to make a cube out of it. So if I just delete one of the faces, what happens is that you have an empty box, but a very thin empty box, right? So the computer try to understand what you want to do with your shape while you're just extruding it and sculpting with it. But basically you have to keep in mind that it's done in faces joined together to make a 3D out of it. So if you want to incorporate something inside, what's going to happen, let's say for example I want to extrude it not this way but underneath. See, what it does is that it creates another shape inside the first one. It creates all the faces that you need, but it doesn't fill all the empty space around the two shapes. Got that? Any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Okay. So as you can see, I just deleted my face. I can always recreate it, a face or a line that I've erased by using again the pencil, redrawing over one of the segments, and then there it goes. It closes down the shape again. It creates, every time you redraw over one segment to the other, see, it closes, it creates a shape again. It connects all the segments together again.
So you don't actually have to outline the entire shape.
No,
you just
exactly.
you just have to connect 2 points and then it covers that face again.
Yeah. Now I don't need this. As you can see, I kind of created I created some sort of a room here with 4 walls. That's basically the way I do walls, actually. I just make an outline and then offset it, and then it makes my room square, and I can change also the dimension. Let's say, for example, I just want to have 3 walls, but one part is not open. So what I'll do is open actually. Let's say this part here is completely open. So what I'll do is that I'll redraw over my face, create a new segment. This way I will create two different, by closing down another part of my drawing here. See, I will create different faces that I can, that I can extrude independently. So let's say this one, I will just kind of extrude it in the bottom. So bring it down, bring the dimension down. So what I'll do, redraw again because my face is just, I deleted it. So here I have some sort of a tree wall room. And if I want to keep just a square floor with no lines of any future wall, I just delete it. So I just select with the select tool, select any segment that I want to delete, I delete it, and it doesn't affect the drawing as long as I don't delete the faces. Here, if I delete the faces, I have some sort of an empty shell of a wall, right? So now, once you draw over a face, already done face, let's say, for example, I start from an endpoint and then force direction towards the front of my room here. I go 24 inches. And then it creates a new segment that you don't see, but it creates also another endpoint. Endpoint that is a guideline for you to start a line that you want to do all across from 24 inches from the back. You want to make another line, so that's how you do that. There we go. We have some sort of a cabinet profile here. That's the base cabinet profile. You'll see where I'm getting to when I extrude it 36 inches high. So that's pretty much like a countertop, right? Okay. And if I want, in the middle of that, I want to make an empty space just to put an oven there, a range there. So what I'll do is that I'll start, remember the main points that are, that you know of on your drawing are the end points and the midpoint. So what I'll do is that I'll just try from the midpoint and I'll go this way, force my direction, 15 inches on the right side. So I will create another segment that ends 15 inches from the middle, and then do another drawing. Start from the end point, force direction 30 inches. See where I'm getting at? I'm starting from the middle, 15 inches on the left, 15 inches on the right, and then I have a 30 inches space available for a future range or future oven, right? So what I'll do is that if I want to empty this space, I just use the push and pull button, and then there we go. Go reach the floor level, and then that's it. I have an empty space here available to put any kind of range that I want to use, right? I can always erase this little segment here. Am I going too fast so far? Are we okay?
I think everyone is okay. Chuck just gave me a thumbs up. He's following along, and Marie said good here. So yeah, I think everyone's just following along and taking it all in, Isabel.
Okay. Before I go any further, I want to show you how we can, how I move around on my drawing, which I have already done a few things, right? So these are the two main ways to move around your sketch. First one is the orbit tool. Once you click it and you click on the screen, you just go, you turn around with your mouse, and then you can see the whole drawing from the point of view that you want, right? There's always also the pen, which just with the same point of view, just move from right to left and up and down, but it doesn't change your viewpoint. The orbit, you can also use it while pressing your wheel on your mouse. Once you press it, it also orbits. Keep it pressed, and then it also orbits with your mouse, your drawing. So it's pretty useful once you're doing a line. You start a line and then you want to orbit. So you don't have to close your line. You just press your wheel and then turn so you have a better view of where you're going, and then click the second part of your line that you want to make. All set? So let's go back to our drawing here. So as you can see, the pencil is pretty useful, right? And also the select, we've seen a bit of the offset. So let's start doing something that looks like a cabinet. So let's say we want to make a toe cake out of my cabinets, because they're not cabinet and they're just blocks so far. So I'll go and then start with the end point and go force a vertical movement with the up arrow, and then I go 4.5 inches high. So I created another guideline to allow another endpoint to start to draw a segment from left to right. See? And what I can do now is to push 2 inches down in the back, and then I have some sort of a toe cake of my drawing. I want to mimic the same thing, do the same thing here. I start here. Let's say I'm not sure how high it was at the beginning, the one here. So what I'll do is that I'll force the direction from down to up, and then just go towards the end of this segment here. So see the line that I just created is exactly the same height as this part here, because I indicated while forcing the direction to have the same height. So what I'll do is that I'll once again draw another line and then orbit to see where I'm going, and then push 2 inches. I want to create a countertop. So once again, I start with an endpoint, force direction from up to down this time. Here in Quebec, it's 1.25 inches thick countertop, but in the US, I think it's 1.5 inches thick, right? But I'll go with our standard here in Quebec. So I've created some sort of an outline of a countertop. So what I'll do to make the overhang of a countertop, I'll go just 1 inch, right? So as simple as that. Makes sense to you?
Makes sense to me.
There we go. Do the same here. Now, let's have some fun with, I know that's the basic, that's boring, I know. But now let's have fun with a very cool tool that is called the warehouse. The warehouse is some sort of a community of drawings in SketchUp. So everybody can put their models there in the warehouse, so you can share your 3D drawings to anyone on the planet. So as long as you're registered to SketchUp, that is not the free version, you have access to this very cool warehouse where you can get all the models that are available to you. So let's go and have a look at the warehouse. We'll click the warehouse. So it kind of opens up a window that's pretty much like Google. So there you go. You search anything you want. For my part, I'm looking for a range or an oven. So it depends. It's like Google. Depending on what you write down, you'll end up with a selection that is completely different from the other thing that you have wrote down. So here is the
Isabel?
range. Yes.
Isabel, just to make a quick comment on that, Anne-Marie had made a comment earlier about you can actually access the 3D warehouse just by having a Google account. So
Oh, really? Oh.
Stefan did some checking into that, and she is correct. So
Oh,
as long
that's
as you
good.
have a Google account, you can access the 3D warehouse, even if you have the free trial of SketchUp or the web version as well.
There we go. You don't need it anymore. You don't need to pay. It's free. Hey, another perk. So there we go. So I just select the range. The range that I like. Let's see, so that's this one that I like. Not sure, but let's go. So I'll just click download, and I load this directly to my SketchUp model, and there you go. It doesn't look good. I don't like it. So there we go. I just select it again and delete, and I'll look for another model. Let's say cooktop. Oh, you have, yeah, this one looks better. Let's go. There we go. We have one. So I just, first of all, I just imported my drawing, and that's pretty much anywhere on my drawing. So I want to move it and put it into place. So what I'll use is this tool that is called Move. So I first of all select my object, and then use the Move tool by taking a point of the model anywhere, and then I just go and align it with somewhere I want to align it. Because as you can see, my cooktop is pretty big. It's not up to scale. So I can always scale it with the scale button here. As you can see, just a moment, I'll just move it a bit so you can see better. So once you select your object and then you select the scale button here, you will have many little green squares appearing at the main points of your object. So this will allow you to choose which part of this object you want to scale, from which point you want to scale. Let's say, for example, you start from the back endpoint here. See, it will scale, it will really keep the scale of your drawing here, this one too. But if you use one of those middle square here, little cube here, once you select it, it just stretches your drawing, your object, the way you want to stretch without changing any other ways of the dimension. Let's say I want to just change, not sure. So move it again, then scale it again. There we go. So it's pretty much in place, but that's not exactly the right size. So sometimes you have some models, you have to work with it a bit because it's not exactly perfect, but most of them are pretty, they respect sizes of the regular object that you're looking for, right? See, now I have a range in place, but I have just a plain face here that doesn't represent any of the cabinet doors, right? So what I can do is that I'll work on the surface and do the drawing of the outline of a door. this is how we work with SketchUp. You can always work like you work in 2020, like every cabinet is an object, like the one I just imported, and every cabinet is an object. But to make it easier, and if you want to change it, it's easier if you just work on the surface of a front to make the outline of a door. So this way you can change it anytime you want afterwards. So I want to just separate my faces to make doors in very equal parts. So I just go from the midpoint and then force and just draw over the faces. And this way I have the outline of a door, right? So if I want to make drawers on the top part of my cabinets, what I'll do is that we can also draw the fillers, right? There we go. So I just draw over the faces to make sure that, so this is my filler here. So I've drawn basically the outlines of the doors. Okay, let's say for example, I want this cabinet to have only one drawer and two doors. I just pick the segment that is created. While crossing the lines, it creates all separate segments. So you just delete it and make. Now, as you can see, since I've drawn a filler, and first of all, I separated all the parts before I've done my filler, this door will be a little bit thinner than the other ones, right? So I can always change the lines, move it to make sure it's
Equal.
So there we go. So now I have two equal doors, and I do the same with this one as well. If you are really into details, you can also change, make sure you click one segment and then click the second you shift and then click a second segment if you want them to move all together. If not, there's only one that will move, but see, the end point of the first of the segment that is not selected will move as well, but it will not make a straight line. It will not keep a straight line. The line will now be oblique, right? So if you want to make sure that everything, since it's all connected, you want to make sure it all move together, make sure you select all your segment before moving. So you go select, shift, keep shift, and then click again, select tool, and move. There we go. All set?
Yes.
Now,
I see some heads nodding. Yep.
Now I don't want white cabinets, and I don't want plain slab cabinets as well. So what I'll do is that I'll just, first of all, I'll change the colors of my cabinets. Now, another tool, very friendly tool of mine, is the paint bucket. Once you click the paint bucket, you'll see a menu appearing here. Oh, that's where all the colors appear and everything. So in SketchUp, you already have textures that are predetermined that you can choose from a catalog inside here. So you can see in my sheet, in my summary sheet, I have the info here on this menu. So I'll go a bit quickly with that so you can see the whole process, but we we can go a little bit deeper on each of these parts of the menu for further in time if you want to go further with SketchUp. So you have first menu here are different texture that are put into a different selection. So you have asphalt and concrete, which is not very useful for us. Brick and cladding and siding, carpets. You have colors. There are solid colors here that you can choose from, but you can also edit them. So change the colors of them. You have color names, so they have another set of colors available, solid colors. You have glass and mirrors. You have landscape. But one that is very useful for us is the wood. I don't have a huge selection of wood. Let's say here you have bamboo, you have a texture or some sort of, it says cork, but if you want it to look like a particle board, that's pretty much what you use as a texture. You have wood floor, but as you can see, the wood, some of the woods, the textures are not very interesting for us in cabinet making, right? So anyway, you select it and there you go, ta-ta. Okay, now what I can do is that I can always import a new texture. This way I will have a new selection of texture. I can go to the warehouse and go wood texture. There we go. I have many wood textures available. So let's say these are pretty interesting ones. Okay, let's download this. What it will do is that it will upload some sort of a object. In this particular case, there's just shapes, already done shapes with the textures inside. So what I'll do is that I can mimic one of those textures that I like and put it into my drawing. What I'll do is that I'll use this little sample paint tool that I call the pipette. I just click it and see, you select the one you like. Let's say this one. See, here it says you're ready to use this particular texture. So you just bring the paint bucket now wherever faces you want to have these textures. So once again, now it's in the drawing. You can always refer to it. So I click on it and then continue doing my texturizing thing.
Isabel, right before you showed how to do that, Anne-Marie was actually asking that question. Can you import your own textures?
Exactly.
But literally, as soon as I was going to ask you, you said it yourself. Doug is asking, does Cabico have a texture catalog for SketchUp? And no, unfortunately, Doug, we do not. We really only have catalogs that support 2020 and Pro Kitchen right now. But that is something that we're going to talk to our marketing team about for sure. Just a couple more questions here, Isabel, while you take a couple swigs of water.
Yes.
Can you import texture from other sources other than SketchUp? So could you, for example, take a texture or an image from Google Images and import that? Yes,
exactly. You can import the picture of your cat if you wish, or anything. You just that's a further thing. But what you do is that you just pick any color that you think you won't be using anytime soon. So you click it and then edit it. And when you edit it, you just go there where you can browse for material image file. So you can browse any JPEG, GIF or anything. I think it's let me see. I think it's pretty much JPEG, PNG, PSD, TIFF, BMP. I use JPEG most of the time, so I can.
You can save images, yes, images that you've taken yourself, images
Let's
that
say,
you
for
get off the
example,
internet.
I have a client that has it's an old house, and all the walls are done of stone like this. So I go, there we go. But as you can see, my texture is a little bit small, so I can also change the scaling of my texture as well. So let's see, for example, I just work it out like but what it does, though, when you import an image that it's a JPEG, what it does, at the end of the image, it's like a seam here in the
like
texture.
A repeat. Yeah,
it's a repeat. That's the problem with the images that are not included in the SketchUp. But some of textures that you can Google, they don't have too much of the seam, so that's you have to select them carefully the way you want. So
I had one more question, Isabel, from Holly. She was asking about the grain direction. Can you rotate the grain direction to make it vertical rather than horizontal?
Absolutely, that's where I'm going to.
Okay, perfect.
So with the selection tool, you just select any of the shapes. See that they're all, even though you have changed the texture, there are still different spaces, so different shapes that you can change. So if you want to change a particular wood grain direction, just one, not all of the other one, you just pick up your spaces, and then with your mouse, you right click. And what you'll see is I'll have another world opening, and there you have the texture menu that appears. So you click texture and then position. So you can change you can change many things with the texture, but mainly, oops, see my wall is orange again because I went Control Z. So right click, texture, position, and then if I right click again, I have preset rotation. So I right click again, rotate 90 degrees, and I have already a wood grain, the wood grain rotates. Now, as you can see, it's kind of a long process, right? So if you want to do that to all the other parts here, the bottom parts here, what I'll do is that I'll take the pipette again, and then now it has created another shape, another texture that has a vertical wood grain. So I just mimic it, and then paint bucket all the other parts I want to change. If I want to change the position also of my texture, I go position and just move it like the way I want to have it seen, and then enter, and you have changed. You want to see you don't want to see the this part of the grain, right? So I just go position and then just change it the way I wish. And I can just mimic one of the other grain and then do it again. We okay?
Yeah, I think everybody's good. There's no additional questions in the chat currently, so yeah, we'll keep going.
There we go. I want to make a shaker style door, right? So what I'll do is that I'll select an area again, a face, and then once again use the offset tool here, click, and then go inside the shape and do some sort of a million contour, right? 2¼ inches. There we go. So I have some sort of a center of a door, but the real ones, they have some sort of a three dimension. way. So what I'll do is that I'll use again the push and pull and then push to the back. And there we go. I have a shaker style door. Now I want to do the same thing with the second door here. So what I'll do is that I'll use again the offset, but there's a very nice trick. Once you have done one item with one dimension, if you just double click instead of trying to go inside with another, giving it a dimension, what you do is that if you right click, you double click instead with the second shape, see it does exactly what you just did. So the previous action is mimicked to the second one. There we go. So that's how you do very easily and quickly shaker style doors. You want to push and pull, same thing, push and pull, double click. Sorry. Double click and it will mimic. Oh, sometimes it doesn't go where you want to go. Now you mimic the second door, mimic the third door, and see it does exactly the same action as the previous one. So now that's how it's done very quickly. Now you're some sort of a geek and you want it to be really realistic, you would change the wood grain to make sure they're like styles, right? So you'll do that. It's just like hand drawing, actually. There we go. So I could go on like this. Oops. As you can see when I change the texture, it didn't not change just this area there, because you know what? I did not draw exactly on the right. I did not close down my drawing, my line here. See? So since it's not closed, it's like these two spaces were connected. So that's why what I did, it did not change not only this part, but the whole part of the contour of the door. Now, sometimes that can be long. So what you can do is you can copy a part of a drawing and then redo it again on another part of your drawing, so you save time, right? Let's say, for example, I want to copy this door and I wanted to, for example, this part wasn't done. See, I kind of erased everything. That's the tricky part. Okay, there we go. Let's say, for example, I just want to do the same thing on the other side, okay? So what I'll do is that I'll just select this part of the drawing, right? And go Control-C. And just to make sure I'm all set and I have copied everything and not more than what I want to copy, I'll go Control-V and then put it somewhere else and work it out and then move it again back to the place I want to put it. So I kind of copied pretty much everything. The thing is that if I select one part, I don't want to copy it, I want to move it. See what's going to happen. Oh, it's all stuck to the wall faces, right? So in order to have those parts of the drawing separate from the walls, let's say, for example, you have to create a group. So what you do is that you select all the parts that you want them to be together. So you just go select and then right click and then make group. With that, you can pick it, move it, and it doesn't affect the rest of your drawing because it's not connected anymore to the rest of the drawing. So a good thing would be to group your walls first, so the walls will always be independent from the rest of your drawing. Oops. There you go. See where I'm getting at? So now, let's say, for example, I want to group. I just select everything I want to group together to make sure it's independent from the rest. Make a group. Now, my first section here that was not grouped, I just, see there's a part that is still connected to the wall, so I haven't made a perfect group of wall there, so I want to change it. There's always a way to change a group that is already done by double clicking on the group, and now you're inside the group. You can change anything. I want to change the color, for example, of my wall while I'm at it. And there we go. If I want to ungroup, I just click on the group and then go explode. So when I explode, everything turns into segments and faces back together and connected to the rest of the other objects that I create that are not grouped. So when you import a drawing from the warehouse, they're all grouped together. So if you want to make any change in it, you either have to explode it, but I don't suggest that you do that because normally you like the way it is and you want it to keep it as an object that you can move around, not being connected to all the other drawings. So what you do is that you just double click and you are inside the drawing. See, it's a group within a group in this case. So you click until you have reached the parts you want to change. So as you can see now, I'm able to change the faces and the colors and the textures of this group, this object that is from the warehouse. So I want to turn it into blue, for example. Here it is. And now I click pretty much anywhere else in the drawing to go back to my original drawing and then see my object is changed. The colors has changed.
Isabel, Doug asked a question.
Yes.
Can you reverse a group? So Doug, are you meaning like do a mirror image of the group?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Another cool trick. See, now I don't need those example of textures anymore, and I just delete it. And as you can see, my texture, the one I selected, is still there and it's still in the whole drawing. So you won't lose it if you delete the original one. So, oops. My group here, I want it to be same thing, but mirror size. So what I'll do is that I make a copy out of it, Control C, Control V. And now I click on the group, right click again and go flip along. And that's where your knowledge of the axes are very helpful there. You flip along the group red, which is the red axis, flip along the green axis, or flip along the blue axis, which is upside down. Let's try these. Red group, you flip along from left to right. Now flip along the green, so front and back. And you can see how it does it. Again, it's like sheets of papers that are folded together to make my object, right? And then you want to flip along also, oops. Flip along blue, it's upside down. So that's how it's done. There we go.
Awesome.
So let's say, for example, this, as I copied it, my filler was not on the right side. So I just pick up my group, go flip along, red, and there we go. It's okay now. It's all set. Very easy to use. And yeah.
Isabel, we only have about 15 or 20 minutes left. Maybe you can show them how to import a DWG and then kind of trace your
sure, of course.
walls.
Yes, there we go. So as you can see, I've drawn by hand my outline of my walls, but sometimes it's a very complex drawing and a floor plan that is very complex. You want to have many rooms together, so maybe it's easier to just import a DWG that is already done and then raise up your solids with the outline of your floor plan. So what you do is that see, let's say for example, I have this simple drawing here, but I can have a more complex drawing here. In AutoCAD, I want to import this. So what I'll do is that I'll go into SketchUp, there, and you go File and then Import. And as you can see, you have many files that you can import, either a SketchUp file, a 3ds, a DE. You have many files that you can import, including a DWG. So you go and follow. I'll just go with my step one, import, and there we go. I have, well, I actually imported over the original drawing because it will import starting 0.0 of the axis. So I'll just move it along to show you. Okay, once it's imported, it's in a group. So first thing we'll have to do is to explode the group to make sure that I can change whatever I want to change. Or I can just draw over the outline to make the shape that I want to make. So you can do, sometimes you have a drawing that is a JPEG, you import the JPEG, put it to scale, and then just redraw over the JPEG so you can make a floor plan out of it. But what I do normally is that I pick up the plan that I imported, I just explode it to make sure that they are all segments that are independent from the block, right? But the only thing it doesn't do is doesn't keep the faces of the outline because the computer doesn't know it's a solid. So what you have to do is just redraw over one of the few lines so to make sure that it will close the shape. It will make faces with that.
Anne-Marie was just asking, can you import a PDF?
I believe you can. Yes.
There we go. I think probably you've only imported like a DWG.
Maybe not a PDF. Maybe you have to turn it into a JPEG because PDF you don't import. It's not a very common language, let's say, like common language extension PDF actually, because in DWG, in AutoCAD, you cannot import PDF, but maybe you should turn it into a JPEG first, because yeah. I think, let's see, let's find out together. Import. So for example, I've done a, PDF. No, there's no PDF available that you can import. So
Import.
you just need JPEG or bitmap.
Stefan just put a link in the chat on how to import a PDF, although it is through a paid plugin. So that would be kind of an add-on to your.
Yeah, we want to keep it free, so.
But Anne-Marie makes a good point. A lot of plans from builders are sent as a PDF.
Mm-hmm. Normally, what I do when I have a PDF, I just kind of print screen it, and then it turns out into a bitmap or a JPEG, and then I can import it to AutoCAD, because I sometimes do that with AutoCAD. I just pick up a picture, so either a PDF or a JPEG. I import a JPEG and redraw all over the lines to make sure that I have the actual sizes and scale and everything. But there's a little trick with the scaling that you have to work on. So, but from AutoCAD or any DW software, well, once you import it into SketchUp, you don't have to change the scale. It's up to scale, so it's ready to use. As long as you create faces so you can extrude your walls, that's basically how you do that. So you save time. You can always save time, right? Does it make sense to you?
Yep, makes sense to me for sure.
So that's pretty much how I do it quickly, even though I'm not explaining really. See, I just create the space like this. One of the main features also of the push and pull is that you can create holes in your shape in order to create windows there, like this. See what I've done? I've created an outline of a shape and then push and pull, and then it creates a hole in my wall. So what I'll do is that I'll just go to the warehouse again and then import a window in a window that I like. There you go. Now, it doesn't have the right shape, the right scale, and the right rotation. So one last menu that we haven't seen is the rotate option here. So you select your object, click on rotate. See, you have a compass that will appear. So you have different colors of compass. If you point to a certain surface, the blue compass will appear, so it will help you rotating along the, once again, it's not the blue axis in this time, it's kind of a, it's this angle there. So if you point towards another face, see there's another color of the compass, it's green, click, and then see the object that you have selected rotate in another way. Or if you point to another face again, click, and your object that is selected rotate another way. So most of the time we rotate on the blue axis, right? So what we do here, that I go 90 degrees. So I have a 90-degree rotation of my object, and then move it near the opening that I've done, and then scale it to make sure that it fits into my opening. See, it has respected the scale, but I want to enlarge it just on this from the side. So there we go. Maybe it's not the window I should have chosen. It's not a nice one.
Maybe that wasn't the best example, no. But it does show how many different options there are, and that some are a bit more user friendly than others. So I'm sure the more you play with this program and work with it, you will kind of figure out what your favorite options are and stick with them as much as you can.
Yeah, I want to show you one last trick that I pretty much like is the follow me option. It will help you. That's pretty much why you would choose picking SketchUp instead of 2020. It allows you to make the shapes of a molding, anywhere, anything you want to do. So let me show you by drawing instead of trying to explain with my bad English what it does. So there we go. We just create any shape of molding. Let's say, for example, I want to make a crown molding. I would go and then create the shape I want to have. Or I can also import a DW drawing of a shape, so that will be easier. So let's say, for example, I've created this sort of shape. Now, if I push and pull, I can create a crown molding, but it will stop at the limit of my first segment, right? But I want my crown molding to go around my room. So what I'll do is that I'll use a very nice tool that is called Follow Me. In the main menu, Tools, Follow Me. Now, what you do is that you select your shape you want to extrude, and then you follow the path that you want it to follow. There you go. You have a crown molding, very easily done, that follows the room and has all the all the joint that you want to have, the miter joints that you want to have. And that goes as well for the inside. If you want, you're very particular on showing the inside of a door cabinet, you want to create the follow me with a shape. Let's say, for example, I go follow me.
Anne-Marie said that's cool, and Chuck said amazing. So
Yeah,
they're really liking this
yeah,
option.
this isn't. See, I've done some sort of a round shape around my cabinet. There's just the end part. I shouldn't start at at an end point, but a midpoint would be better for doing this. But see, I've kind of created a shape all around my cabinet that I want.
Janelle is asking, do you have to draw your own crown, or can you use the warehouse too? And if you can
use the warehouse,
and then you can still use the follow me option?
Exactly. Yeah, as long as it's some sort of a 2D texture, it's not a 3D thing. Let's say, for example, you want to go to we still have time for that, because we can go on and on the whole day.
we have like 5 more minutes. That's it.
Okay, so
if people have any final questions, you can think of them right now, and then we'll ask Isabel before we finish things up here.
Just to answer the last question, you don't pick those molding, but you select those ones that are made out of just 2Ds drawing like that, so you can extrude it the way you want. All right, you don't select this one, you see. Or if you select a part of a crown molding like this, what you do is that, well, you have to explode it. Explode. Just pick this face part with the segments with it, right? And then you put it, oops. I have to explode it again, just a sec. Oh, it's already exploded, okay.
Doug's also asking, can you save a door style?
Yes. Yes, the only thing is that even though you want to save a door style, is that if you stretch it, it will also stretch the styles, the side of the door. So it's not very useful to select it to save a door style, because you'll have to have the specific measurement of the door. Well, actually, it's like creating a catalog, but that's not exactly why SketchUp is useful. It's useful when you want to draw by hand and you want to start from scratch a design, and you want to make custom made thing. But you can always save a part of a drawing. Like, for example, I've saved this, or just save a door. But let's say, for example, I want to keep just this door that I like. So, well, in order to create a door, actually, you can just very quickly, I'll create a door. Oops. See, since I have my door created, okay, and I create a group out of it, like I showed you before. See, now you have to respect the measurement of my model, right? So if I scale it, see, the styles won't stay 2¼ inch wide. See, it will just keep the scaling of the door. So that's not very useful, really. Or if you want something that is close to what you've drawn before and that doesn't change too much the scale, it can be done. But that's now how I work with SketchUp. Actually, what I do is that I just redraw, but sometimes you have pretty much the same measurement from one room to another. You can copy your drawing and put it to a new drawing, that's okay. But just keep in mind that if you change the scaling, you will change the detail measurement of the doors. So it has an impact on the outcome of your drawing.
Okay, we do have 2 other questions here in the chat, Isabel. Mike is asking, can you add dimensions to what you have drawn?
Exactly. Actually, you can measure with the tape measure here. You want to see the measurement that it has here, but you can also add a dimension to it, like this. There you go. But with this little plugin that I didn't go through, that is called Layout from SketchUp, here you turn your file into some sort of a sheet where you can add your measurement there. That is a little bit more helpful. I have to put a scale on it, but let's say, for example, I'm just I'm connecting it. So I can just add my measurement here instead. But one of the cool part of this thing that is called Layout from SketchUp is that you can change your original drawing, and it will also change into this little sheet, because when you click on your separate view, you can change the point of view. That's a whole different webinar that we have to do, but with layout you can do something about it. And if you change the color or the shape or anything of the original drawing connected to this sheet here, it will change as long as you just refresh your sheet, and that it will change everything. So you don't, when you make the changes, it will be connected one to the other.
Yes, Isabel makes a really great point. Although she literally could just keep talking to you guys for days about SketchUp and teaching you more things, we do have to wrap this session up for today.